Welcome back to Gurong Vlogger ng Kuwait. If you're not yet subscribed, please do like and subscribe to this channel. And now we will be proceeding to our topic. Chapter 2, Lesson number 3, the topic of genre. Whenever we hear the word genre, we mostly think of our favorite movie, or maybe our favorite book to read, or maybe we think of genre as our style. According to my friend Google, hey Google, hello Sachi, how may I help you? Can you define what genre is? Yes, of course. According to Merriam-Webster, genre is a category of artistic, musical, or literary composition, characterized by a particular style, form, or content. The main genres of classical music would be, including symphonies, sonatas, and opera. The major genres of literature would include novels, short stories, poetry, and drama. But within the category of novels, we could also say that detective novels, sci-fi novels, romance novels, and young adult novels are separate genres. Thank you, Google. No problem. Now let me ask you guys, what is your favorite genre and why? My favorite genre under the category of movies would be comedy and chick flick movies. As for comedy, I would love to watch a movie that would make me laugh because it keeps me entertained and get away from all of the troubles and stress that I am facing. Another is chick flick movies. You may not be familiar with this term, but chick flick is a slang term for the film genre catered specifically to women's interests and is marketed towards women demographics. They generally tend to appeal more to a younger female audience, which is why I love chick flick movies. Examples like Devil Wears Prada, Clueless, Legally Blonde, and etc. And as for the category of novels, I'm a big fan of young adult fiction and contemporary. I don't know, it just keeps my mind spinning as I'm imagining all of the scenarios. Okay, so much for that. Then let us proceed to the primary genres of media and information.
Warning.
Breaking news! It has just in that one of our members, Saad, has been missing in the process of doing this report. And by that means that one of our people shall be taking over his part.
News are stories that have absolute significance to community and national life. Like fictional storytelling, news stories are told in the basic structure of beginning, middle, and end. Journalists, which are people trained to report news to an audience, are expected to be objective, comprehensive, and bias-free. These people work for newspapers, radio stations, televisions, and lately, online or web-based news services. There are actually 5 major divisions of news stories. They are the following: hard news, features, soft news, investigative news, and opinion. Hard news is usually found in the first page of a newspaper, or makes up the headline of an episode of primetime news. It values 2 elements, seriousness and timeliness. Why so? Well, hard news needs to have an element of seriousness because the topics and issues are that critical to the lives of the community and the body politic. Hard news also needs to have an element of timeliness because the topics are supposed to be of the current events, things like the current peace negotiations, the outbreak of war, a significant public statement issued by a leader or opinion maker, a situation appraisal of a current crisis, and many more. Hard news also needs to have objectivity because it is critical to the life of a community or an entire nation. Objectivity is the guiding principle that leads all journalists when reporting hard news. To clarify, objectivity is a fair, balanced, and impartial stance when retelling the events free of judgment and without interpretation, the opposite of subjectivity. Note that for a story that is told objectively, the most accepted structure is the inverted pyramid, this being the base on top and the narrowest and the pointed section at the bottom. So basically, the leading paragraph opens into the general recounting of the story, unpacking the 6 W's. Who was involved? What happened? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? And how did it happen? Soft news are news that include lifestyle news, travel news, articles offering the best way to do something, or even video clips presenting the point of view of ordinary folks. It is also called human interest stories. Features are stories that extend from soft news in the sense that the human interest angle is presented in a longer and elaborate format, as it is the main point of the news. In the USA, the genre has been called literary journalism. Editorials and Opinion. Opinions are reserved for editorials and opinion columns. They are usually found in at least one page or a spread made up of 2 pages facing each other in a newspaper. These columns of opinions and editorials express an individual or organizational point of view. An editorial reflects the majority of the editorial board, the governing body of the newspaper made up of the publishers, the editors of the different sections, and its business managers. However, an opinion article reflects the view of the writer themselves or the stand of one organization other than the media institution that disseminates it. Investigative news will be explained by my group mates, but the gist of it is the reporting of the wrongdoings of those in power.
Investigative reports, from the name itself, are journalistic reports that set out to investigate those in power, well, specifically those in power. It focuses on finding, reporting, and presenting news which the authorities try to keep in vaults from everyone, such as the public. Unlike conventional news reporting, it is often, though not all the time, out to expose government corruption and questionable deeds done by those in power and many similar topics. It has similarities nonetheless, but it is very distinct besides its reasoning of existence. The facts need to be more compelling and in-depth, more analytical and sure about the facts that you are trying to uncover, meaning the process of investigative reports usually takes longer than the conventional form of reporting. In contrast, the standard form of reporting usually takes a day or two, while the journalists of investigative reports devote a great amount of time on their sources, interviewing anyone they can in-depth and research their scavenged information critically. It may take weeks, months, or even years. Every journalist uses tools to achieve their report in their field of journalism. And of course, investigative reporters are no exception. The tools they use are adapted to the available information they can gather and to the nature of investigations. An investigator reporter may make use of one or more of these tools, among others, on a single story. First is analysis of documents such as lawsuits and other legal documents, tax records, government reports, regulatory reports, and corporate financial filings. Second would be databases of public records. Third would be investigation of technical issues, including scrutiny of government and business practices. Number 4 would be research into social and legal issues. Number 5 would be subscription research sources such as LexisNexis. And number 6, numerous interviews with on-the-record sources, as well as, in some instances, interviews with anonymous sources, for example, whistleblowers. And for the last one, number 7, Freedom of Information Acts, whether federal or state, to obtain documents and data from government agencies. A good example of investigative journalism would be in the Philippine Center of Investigative Journalism, or PCIJ, in the Philippines. A subgenre of investigative reporting in the Philippines was pioneered by the institution of PCIJ. The institution was actually started by journalists who were active in the Marcos era and experienced it, when the absence of democratic processes constrained the work of the media industry. Because of this, they were tempered by authoritarianism. They nurtured the belief that journalism isn't just about day to day news reporting. Instead, they believed that as citizens, they are responsible to assert as part of their work. The media could and should be a catalyst for social debate and consensus that would contribute to the furtherance of public welfare. Another example would be Ida B. Wells Barnett's 1892 Southern Horrors documentation on lynching in the United States, exposing in the black-owned newspaper as a campaign of oppression and intimidation against African Americans. A white mob destroyed her newspaper, press, and office in retaliation for her reporting. Investigative journalism flourishes with freedom of the press. In countries such as the US, UK, Canada, Scandinavian countries, and Australia, investigative journalism is more common and free to flourish than in countries with stringent press censorship. In less democratic countries, or those with unstable regimes, including Russia, some Middle Eastern and Eastern European countries, and nations in the Far East and Africa, investigative journalism is significantly scant or may not even exist at all. The challenges facing investigative journalism vary by culture and are influenced by politics, financing, time constraints, the commitment of media owners and journalists, and legal restrictions imposed by the governments. Investigative journalism faces many legal, political, and economic obstacles. In many countries, the lack of laws that protect the public also limits investigative reporting. There are instances in which the law of the land does not protect the privacy of journalists, and journalists do not have the right to reply. Journalists also fear being insulted or having their reputations tarnished, leading to many shying away from investigative reporting. Regarding political barriers, politicians in these nations generally view investigative journalism as a nuisance rather than a democratic ideal. Hence, it is common for politicians to exert pressure on investigative reporters, which can include accusing them of wrongdoing. Consequently, politicians suppress investigative reports by allying themselves with publishers and editors to intimidate investigative journalists. It's no wonder that since most media companies depend on government financing, they toe the line adopted by the government. This shows that economic constraints can be a major factor that influences investigative journalism. Fleeson, in 2000, asserts that some of the most common challenges to investigative reporting in both developing and developed countries include lack of information, lack of access to documents, and reporters' fears of being targeted or threatened, leading to safety concerns. This makes the work of investigative reporters very difficult. Additionally, when journalists are not granted the right to keep their sources secret, their informants might become more reluctant to supply them with important information, thereby hindering investigative reporters' ability to serve the public. Such obstacles are more prominent in less democratic countries. Martin, in 2010, says governments subsidize even privately owned newspapers to the extent that if those newspapers published material that went against the government, they would lose government subsidies or even lose their licenses altogether. This has been documented in Arab countries. As al-Zahrani stated, the media in Arab countries are still controlled by political authorities. Even private media, which do not depend on the government for subsidies, are still strongly controlled by the political powers there. To go off the topic of my topic, I would like to ask a question. I would like to answer a question that has been put upon us. What genre do I like, and why do I like it? Well, I like a lot of genres, probably all of them actually, but I am most in touch with the genre of action. I always like watching and reading action if it is done right and does not feel bland, especially if knowing the context of the world that has been built around the action and the cause and effect of the action. This reason makes me love action adventure and action thriller. Adding a bit of comedy and love tragedy might make it better for me as well. Usually, I like a little more unrealistic circumstances of action, like in the media, shown in comics and manga. They provide a sort of fantastical battle that usually never feels bland, that always depicts different types of fights and action, from large scale fights that can destroy buildings and even mountains, or small scale fights that take place inside a room or just results in broken bones, and everything else in between this spectrum, and even out of the spectrum, as long as it makes sense in the pre-existing world that it takes place and can progress and or develop the story, world building, and characters in the story, especially those in the action.
So when we talk about advertisement, we usually think about probably the ads at the beginning of a YouTube video or whenever we're scrolling through social media and we're being suggested electronic products, or maybe we could just be walking past a store and there would be a big poster screaming at you saying 50% off sale. That's essentially what advertisements are. They're messages that scream at you so that they could promote their services, their product, or maybe a new event that will happen soon. And they could also be used for relaying information so that they could advocate for something. Um, there are at least three subgenres of advertisements, namely hard sell advertisements, soft sell advertisements, and infomercials. So, a hard sell is a sort of advertisement technique that many companies use to force you and corner you into buying their services or their product as soon as possible. And the way they do that is by being explicit, direct, or aggressive in nature. They overwhelm you with information and benefits to their product or services and make it seem like it's a rational decision to buy them. Have you seen those ads where there's this kind of detergent being compared to this other kind of detergent, and the other detergent is obviously much better? And that's an example of hard sell advertisement. Or even restaurants with their coupons. They ask you to fill them out every time you eat at the restaurant. So they're basically manipulating you into keep going into the restaurant and eat there. So you could fill up the coupon and get a nice deal, which is much more aggressive compared to what other advertisement type I'm going to be talking about next. Compared to a hard sell advertisement, a soft sell is a much more subtle, more implicit way of advertising, because instead of forcing you into buying their product or services as soon as possible, they're trying to build a relationship with their consumers and turn them into loyal long-term customers so that they could buy their products for the longest time. The way they accomplish this is by researching about the population that they want to target and find out what they want to see in a product or a service. They also associate themselves with positivity so that they could feel a connection to the consumers and the consumers to the company. Like, for example, there's this family eating at a restaurant and they're being happy and stuff. What really gives soft sell an edge over hard sell is that many people actually don't want to be pressured into buying their product. Some people just want to take their time and ease into the company's products by themselves. Moving on to infomercials, which is derived from the words information and commercials. That's basically what they are. It's an advertisement in the form of a commercial used to inform you. And you can see them a lot on television. They're much longer than your usual advertisements. They're being used by advocacy groups to address an issue within a community or a nation. Some others use it to ask people to boost their campaign or support their charity, while some others use it to promote their product. Well, if you know this guy, this is an example of an infomercial. And through that, they use a live demonstration of the product in order to get people to buy it. And that's basically it.
Thriller, because I like the feeling of getting goosebumps.
Entertainment. Hisar stated that entertainment is any action, event, or activity for the purpose of entertaining and eliciting the interest of an audience. It is the presence of an audience that makes any private activity from recreation or leisure into entertainment. Many forms of entertainment are cross-cutting throughout the history and cultures and evolve in the light of cultural and technological changes. Movies and electronic games, for example. While making use of new media and media continue to tell stories and make use of music. The festivals dedicated to music, theater, or dance allow the entertainment of an audience over several consecutive days. Entertainment provides fun, personal satisfaction, and good mood. In certain circumstances and contexts, entertainment has a serious purpose, as in the case of celebrations, religious festivities, or satires. As such, there is a possibility that what appears to be entertainment may also be in the form of cultural and intellectual development. The appeal of entertainment, along with its ability to use different media and its potential for creative adaptations, has ensured the continuity and longevity of many forms, themes, images, and social structures. The experience of being entertained has come to be strongly associated with amusement, so that one common understanding of the idea is fun and laughter, although many entertainments have a serious purpose. Like I said earlier, this may be the cause of various forms of ceremonies, celebration, religious festival, or satire, for example. Hence, there is the possibility that what appears to be entertainment may also be in the form of achieving insight or intellectual growth. An important aspect of entertainment is the audience, definitely, which turns a private recreation or leisure activity into entertainment. The audience may have a passive role, as in the case of persons watching a play or opera, television show, or a film. The audience role may be active, as in the case of games, where the participant or the audience role may be routinely reversed. Entertainment can be public or private. Most forms of entertainment have persisted over many centuries, evolving due to changes in culture, technology, and fashion, for example, with staged music, films, and video games, for example. Although they use newer media to continue to tell stories, present drama, and play music, festivals devoted to music, film, or dance allow audiences to be entertained over a number of consecutive days. And to summarize, throughout the history of the forms of entertainment have been maintained and evolving, being some of them similar in all civilizations, times, and places, and others remarkably different. And that is all. Thank you.
Now, the genre I'll be talking about is information. Editor Chan, can you help me out here?
Information is anything that provides us info about the world. It could be a small piece of data, or it may be a set of data that tells something about an event, a person, a thing, or etc.
Okay, thank you. We can get information from what we can see in our daily lives, like how a news reporter gets intel and shares it to the world through television. Or we can gather our own information from what we can see. Let's say that you saw a flower and it has stems. So you basically got information from what you've just observed. Flowers have stems. But in the means of media and information literacy, it has come to refer to the vast and nearly unlimited variety of information and texts available on the internet. We can get any information that we seek using the internet. The information can be used by us students for the purpose of education, or even by searching for anything about someone or something. It doesn't require you to obtain the object you'd want to examine, for the information you seek could already be shared through the internet. It is a very challenging task to taxonomize information from the internet into subgenres. There are two types of methods that I know that you can obtain information. Now, there are blogs. There are people, which you call as bloggers, that displays or post events of an occasion, a commentary about a certain beauty product or an object, or even presenting their opinions about a certain crisis. Now, this started in the late 1990s. It is most of the blogs were initiated by the individuals. However, soon some organizations discovered the potencies of blogs as information sites from their activities and platform of advocacies. Now, these blogs are commonly referred as the multi-author blogs or the MABs. Today, there is always the possibility that the readers can interact in the comment section, and this has truly been revolutionary. That is why blogging is also considered a social networking activity, as it invites participants to talk their opinions and insights with the blog authors, as well as interact with other readers. Now, wikis. It's an application that allows the modification, revision, extension, elaboration, and sometimes even deletion of its content. The most famous wiki that we know is Wikipedia. Now, we know that Wikipedia can be changed or modified by any user. Now, are we sure that we can trust Wikipedia? We know Wikipedia is an encyclopedia project that relies on a global community of users that contribute for content generation, revision, and elaboration. It differs from blogs because the content has no owner or leader. Wiki serves very broad purposes as an information hub, information dissemination, an introduction to a topic, and depending on the popularity of the topic, some can have more elaborate discussions. Wiki writers, aside from being able to create new pages within the wiki website, can also promote topic association through hyperlinks that will connect to the readers to another document that can provide more information or elaboration to the topic. So basically, how do we know if we can trust Wikipedia? If people keep changing from day-to-day basis? Well, we don't know that. It's like an anonymous person could basically change the information that we just got from Wikipedia. How would we know that the information we got from there is actually legit? That's it for our blog. Thank you guys for watching. And I hope you guys don't forget to like and subscribe, ring the bell, and comment if you have any questions or to ask. Bye! Editor Chan, can you turn it off now?